Hello everyone and welcome to another video here on the channel, and we've just seen the very electric stage 8 of this year's Tour de France. As always, I'm joined by Mr. Critical himself, Ewan, and Ewan, is the Tour de France over?
Well, that is the question that we're all thinking about. Tadej Pogacar on stage 8 was incredible on this stage to Le Grand Bornand. It's not the day we thought Tadej would really strike out, but he's done it as soon as we've gone into the Alps. And judging by that long-range attack from 30k out, he's certainly the strongest at this year's Tour de France. He had a fantastic time trial to Laval. He was up there in the first couple of days, out of danger, out of crashes, and now he's just stamped his authority on the race. And with an almost 5-minute advantage to his main GC rivals, the expected GC rivals, this looks incredible for Tadej Pogacar, the real opportunity of his life right now. And when we look at the people who responded, it was only Carapaz who was there on his wheel, and none of the other guys, not David Gaudu, not Richie Porte or so forth, they didn't respond to this move. It was Tadej Pogacar who instantly opened up a gap between him and Richard Carapaz, just showing how strong he is and how ambitious this move was on this Tour de France. I think maybe he's gone out too early, but it's stage 8. I'm sure he's thought this through.
Stage 9 would be the second day he has actually worn the yellow jersey in his whole career, which is quite an achievement in itself. But Ewan, who do you think is going to be his chief challenger of the rest of the pack, if there is going to be a challenge, to be honest?
I mean, his opponent will not necessarily be a person. It will be luck. I think the only thing separating Tadej Pogacar from victory at this Tour de France will be staying upright in his bike, avoiding illness, and also any problems that he might have in terms of maybe underfueling and so forth during this race. I don't think the threat is really Carapaz at this point in time. Ineos Grenadiers weren't as strong as we thought they would be today. In fact, Formolo and McNulty really shaped this race more than the Ineos boys. And in terms of the other guys in top 10, Vingegaard looks good. He really brought it to him in the Basque Country, but he doesn't have Roglic there. Stefan Kruijswijk, Sepp Kuss weren't really in the wings on this stage. So Vingegaard looks quite isolated. David Gaudu looked good. He had Bruno Amirai working for him for a lot of this stage. But even Gaudu didn't attack on the Colombière. Neither did Lutsenko and these other rivals that we're thinking of. I think with all the bad luck that struck Geraint Thomas, Primož Roglic in these opening couple of days, it's certainly looking like Pogacar is riding a wave and riding towards his second Tour de France win in Paris.
Well, when it comes to UAE Team Emirates, I was one of the people saying that they're potentially not even marked as a super team, but they definitely were a super team today, as you said. And do you think they are strong enough to really bully the peloton? We saw he was a bit lacking of teammates later on, but Brendan McNulty, Rafa Majka, and David Formolo definitely looked strong.
Well, UAE aren't putting people in the breakaway. That's because they know that they have a race to win with Pogacar in the peloton and in these favorite groups. And we can see that. They've avoided sending anyone in the early break and these early moves on stage 7 and stage 8 to give as many resources to Tadej Pogacar for these finales. And today, McNulty and Formolo, they did it. They dropped some of these helpers. They dropped some really instrumental riders and pushed on until the end of this stage. And UAE, well, that's all they've got to do. They've got 5 minutes of an advantage right now for Tadej Pogacar. If they get McNulty and Formula to stay with him and just play a pragmatic race from this point and maybe quite defensive, then they've got it in the bag, I would say. And to be honest, I don't think this team is as weak as many other people see it as. And at the end of the day, they have the best rider in the world right now. And it doesn't matter how strong or how weak your team is. If you have the best rider, you should win in theory.
So anyways, looking on to the upcoming stages, where do you think Tadej Pogacar might eke out more time? Of course, he showed in the first time trial that he was absolutely formidable there, eking out a lot of time on his other rivals and taking the stage win as well. But where do you think the next opportunities are for Tadej Pogacar to take more time on his rivals? If he does, like you said, he might play defensively like we've seen with other riders doing in the past.
Well, for Tadej Pogacar, a chance comes tomorrow at Tignes. You can watch our preview here on the channel where we talk about the chances of Tadej Pogacar there in terms of getting a stage win and more seconds over his rivals. It's an uphill finish. Tadej loves uphill finishes, and he's won on stage 9 of every Grand Tour he's entered. So luck and chance would say that Tadej has a strong chance tomorrow. However, looking further into the race, stage 11 has the double ascension of Le Mont Ventoux. That has a downhill finish as well. That climb, although Tadej hasn't actually competed on it before, he's done recon rides of it and should be up there in contention. Then we move to the Pyrenees for the final week. He won in the Pyrenees last year, and he put a whole heap of time into his rivals there in 2020. And I could see the same thing happening here in 2021. I can't see Tadej Pogacar losing a grip on this race. The only question and caveat here is whether he has buried himself too much on this stage, and can he recover in time? Can he fuel to gain back the reserves from today's stage? We'll have to wait and see, but after the stage, he was up there. He took a moment to recompose himself, but he was on the trainer straight away, looking pretty sprightly. And Tadej Pogacar here, race leader and potentially our Tour de France champion.
Do you not think we could potentially see an alliance of the other teams, potentially Jumbo Visma and Ineos, trying to somewhat try and go for Tadej Pogacar, or are they just going to be content now with battling out for the podium positions and the top 5?
I think this is a battle for second. It's a battle for second and third place on this race. And this is when the politics is going to come in here. We talked about these super teams, and some of these super teams have crumbled. Ineos were strong, but not quite as strong as we would have expected. Jumbo Visma were poor today. They've lost Roglic and they've lost Hessing. And that is just showing how weak they are. In fact, it's not even their designated leader who's best placed in GC right now. And for these riders, if they gang up against Pogacar, well, how are they going to do it? There's like 5 or 6 teams who are certainly still in the play for this, but how are they going to agree amongst themselves to dethrone Pogacar? He's still got teammates here for UAE. He's not completely isolated, and he's still stronger than them on many of these mountain stages. You saw that none of these GC riders could respond to Pogacar. He is the strongest. If Ineos try to drop him from 100k out, well, how are they going to finish this one off? I just don't see it happening, and this will be a battle for second place, and hopefully we see an interesting battle there, because there are plenty of people in this top 10 who are fighting for a podium who we don't think of as traditional podium contenders. I'm thinking of David Gaudu, Alexei Lutsenko, Jonas Vingegaard, Peyo Bilbao, and so forth. These guys could get a first ever career podium on this Tour de France, but it is all in the trail of Tadej Pogacar.
Anyways, that's it for this video. Is Tadej Pogacar going to be the youngest 2-time winner of the Tour de France in its history? And is he potentially going to be winning all the 3 jerseys yet again? We'll have to wait and see. But of course, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all things that is Cycling Dane and the Tour de France. And of course, thank you for watching and have a nice day.